Hello everyone, this is Husker Eurocat bringing you Madden NFL football. I welcome you back to the Cleveland Browns franchise and today's coverage of our off-season. The Browns finished season number 1 much better than I ever thought they would, at 11-5 on the season. They made it to the playoffs and had a bye week, but lost their first game, and that was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now that season number 1 is in the books, it's time for the off-season, the NFL draft, free agency, and re-signings of those players and coaches that we want to come back to play for this next season. I thought you might be interested in the Pro Bowl and the choices for that game and the yearly award presentations. So we'll start off with that. Here you can see the selections for this year's Pro Bowl. It's no surprise that Tom Brady was the leader of the AFC team, and Cam Newton took the honors on the NFC side of the equation. The Browns, however, made a good showing in this year's Pro Bowl, having a total of 6 in the game this year, with the offense dominating those selections. Out of Sam Houston University, quarterback Josh McCown is chosen. Veteran Joe Thomas, left tackle from Wisconsin. Out of Illinois, right guard John Asamoah, as well as on the other side of center, left guard Joel Bitonio from Nevada. And on the defense, rookie sensation and number 1 pick was defensive tackle Danny Shelton out of Washington and cornerback Joe Hayden out of the University of Florida. And the AFC won this year's game 20-17. Next are the yearly awards presentation. Who won the MVP of the NFL? That would be Cam Newton, MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year went to Paul Posluszny. You think about that. He had an interception against the Browns in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. But someone explain this one to me. The number 2 Offensive Rookie of the Year, running back Duke Johnson, doesn't go to the Pro Bowl, yet the number 5 Defensive Rookie takes the top spot on the AFC roster at the Pro Bowl. I don't know. Go figure, folks. Something just seems wrong with that picture. And now it's time to head off into the off-season. And first up is our coaches. Head coach Mike Pettini's ratings are in the 90s, and a pretty good job was done this last season, so there's no reason not to bring that staff back. I know the defensive backfield allowed an awful lot of pass yards this last season, but we're going to give Jim O'Neill one more shot at trying to make this a capable defense. And that brings us to our player retirements for the season. Who's going to say goodbye to the game? Quarterback extraordinaire Peyton Manning is saying goodbye to the game. There's someone that the Browns won't have to face this next season in James Harrison, playing right outside linebacker for the Steelers. He will no longer be there. Also saying goodbye is Charles Woodson. He's made an 18-year career out of the NFL. That is a long time, folks. That brings us to the Browns' re-signing efforts. Who gets a new contract? Who gets to go to free agency? And who just gets to go home? Quarterback up for a contract renewal is Austin Davis. The only thing I remember about him is he threw an interception in the only game I let him in. He gets a free pass to free agency. Jim Dre just didn't shine as a fullback, so we're going to switch him back to tight end and see what happens. Travis Benjamin is up for contract renewal and is more than worthy of it, so he gets a contract extension. Josh Gordon has come off the injured reserve list, and with his speed may be a very good asset for the team. So we'll give him a contract extension for a couple of years and see what happens with him. That brings us to Gary Barnage, 31 years old, but a 99 overall. So, yes, he gets a contract all day long. As long as he keeps on performing at the level that he did this past season, there's no reason not to. Center Daniel Munier, a 68 overall, and no contract. Sorry, gotta release you. Charlie Hewlett, same deal. You're gone too. Cameron Irving, you're a holdover from the last regime, and it would cost me almost $4 million in cap room to get rid of you, so I guess you ride the bench a little bit more. Right tackle Austin Pastor, you gotta go too. Sorry. Mitchell Schwartz, I wanted to get rid of you last season. I didn't, and you seem to do okay for us this last season, so maybe you'll do okay as a backup, so we'll give you a contract. Only for a year and see what happens. Jamie Meter, I can find a better defensive tackle, and since you aren't going to cost me any cap room, I gotta let you go. Left outside linebacker Scott Solomon, same deal. Craig Robertson, you're still a solid backup, but I'm not so sure that I want to spend lots and lots of money on you. But we'll give you a 1-year contract and see how things go from there. Nate Orchard should probably be cut, but if I cut him, then I have to pay out over $1 million in cap penalty, and I don't think I want to do that, so he might be good enough for the practice squad. Tramon Williams, although he is an NFL icon, he's just a little bit slow for my liking. We may have to trade him in hopes that we can get something a little better. I don't know. Johnson Batamosi, I want to go ahead and give you a contract because you did pretty good for us this last season. That brings us to Tashawn Gibson, 26 years old, 94 overall. No doubts that he's going to remain a Brown. And Travis Coons, you just don't have the leg strength that I want on my team. So somebody else is going to want you. That brings us to the end of our contract negotiations. We're still shy tackles, defensive tackles, and obviously a kicker. I went ahead and did some trading before the NFL draft started. So the first person up to trade was Jim Dre, a solid tight end, but hardly. With E.J. Bibbs in the pipeline, I didn't need another tight end, and he was traded to the Giants for Jaron Hosley, cornerback and kick return specialist. Next on the trading block was Isaiah Crowell. Here's a kid that seemed to do spectacular things at times last season, but then he'd do some foolish things like fumbling and running away from the ball. That just doesn't cut it in my book. So he has been traded to the Chiefs for left end Nick Williams. It's my feeling that he and Desmond Bryant will push each other for that position at left end. The next trade was Tramon Williams. Although Tramon is a very, very good cornerback, he was just a little bit too slow for what I'm trying to build with the Cleveland Browns. So he was traded to the Buccaneers for right guard Ali Marpet, and hopefully that will strengthen the right side of that offensive line. And now it's time for the NFL Draft. Yes, I know free agency usually comes before the NFL Draft. The only problem is that in Madden world, or at least with this program, I feel that the game is a lot more realistic if I can skip the first free agency and then go straight to the NFL draft and then have the second free agency with all of the free agents and the leftover undrafted rookies as a part of that second free agency. That manipulation is done with NZA's editor, available at footballidiot.com, and that is in the description below. Now on with the draft. With the first pick in this year's draft, the Houston Texans take Jared Goff. What a surprise! They needed a quarterback. Since my pick wasn't until the end of the round, number 26th, and I started seeing all these good prospects just start flying off the board, I knew I needed to move up the board just a little bit. I wanted to see if I could draft a starting right tackle, a quarterback if possible, and maybe a cornerback. And then the rest, once you get beyond the second and third round, you're not into starters anymore unless you get really, really fortunate with your picks. So when it came time for pick number 8, Tampa Bay was on the clock, and I decided to see if they would just swap my first round for their first round, and they bet on it. So with my first draft choice at number 8 from Michigan State, I took Jack Conklin, right tackle. All I can do is hope that he will be good enough to either start or fight Schwartz for that position at right tackle. My next pick wasn't going to be until 26th pick of the second round, so I knew I needed to move up the board just a bit again if I wanted to make sure that I got somebody good. Who I really wanted was Dak Prescott, but Baltimore took him at pick number 15. That made me just a little bit nervous. So at pick 19, I traded up with the Dallas Cowboys, gave them my second and third round picks for their first round pick, and at that point I knew I needed to get a really, really good cornerback, but there was Ezekiel Elliott on the board yet. And I didn't know whether to take him, but finally I went with Vernon Hargreaves out of Florida, which now meant that I did not have a pick until the 26th pick of round number 4. That is a long time to wait, and it seemed like an eternity. But I kept on seeing on the top of the board was this right tackle, Leonard Wester, that just stayed up there at the top, and when it came to my pick in the 4th round, he was still there. I didn't know if everybody else knew something that I didn't, but I decided to go ahead and take him. There were others that were on the board, and I probably should have taken them, but I went ahead and took him instead over everybody else. Round number 5's pick came around, and I decided another cornerback wouldn't be a bad idea. So I decided to go ahead and draft Josh Hawkins out of East Carolina, cornerback, at 26th in the 5th round. Since the 26th pick in the 6th round was going to be my last because of a prior obligation from the prior regime, I thought I'd better pick a wide receiver, and it was between Core and Hill. And I thought Hill looked like the faster of the two, so I went ahead and I picked Tyreek Hill as my pick for round number 6. Now that the NFL draft was concluded, here are the final results of the draft and their overalls and stats once I got them signed to contracts. Pick number 8 overall was right tackle Jack Conklin, 80 overall. not bad, but not great either. Number 19 overall, cornerback Vernon Hargreaves from Florida. And 81 overall. Again, not great, could have been better, but he'll work out. The next was kind of a bust. At pick number 122 in the 4th round was right tackle Leonard Wester, a 69 overall. He is destined for the practice squad. At pick 154 in the 5th round was cornerback Josh Hawkins, a 69 overall. The nice thing, he does have quite a bit of speed, but he too is probably destined for the practice squad. And my last pick at number 186 is Tyreek Hill, also a 69 overall, but he has some speed, but his awareness is really low. Maybe with some development, who knows. Now it's on to free agency and see what we can get there. There was a number of things that I was wanting to secure here. A quarterback, halfback, a right outside linebacker, a defensive tackle, a left tackle possibly, and a kicker. Headlining this free agency was free safety Earl Thomas III, a 99 overall, and he would be wonderful competition for Tashawn Gibson, but he wanted a lot of money. I'm not so sure I wanted to pay for that when I already had a 94 overall. I saw that Matt Ryan was in the free agency pool, and I made an offer to him, a 3-year, $21.5 million deal, and all I can do is wait. I next needed a halfback. I already have Duke Johnson, and I think he's a good running back for the future, but I also think he needs a little bit of help. So I offered a deal to Robert Turbin. It doesn't hurt that he was a former Brown either. I then heard back from Matt Ryan, and the Browns' offer is being considered, which in this program means move on unless you want to pay big bucks. At that point, I was looking at Phil Taylor, another former Brown, and I decided to offer him a contract as well. Time to go back to QBs, and after searching through what was available, I found Matt Stafford, 28 years old, so if he works out, he could be a Brown for quite a while. So I went ahead and gave him an offer. It doesn't hurt that he has a cannon arm. And almost immediately, he comes back with an okay. So Matthew Stafford is now a Cleveland Brown. I next wanted a left tackle that wasn't older than dirt and would make a good backup to Joe Thomas. I found 28-year-old Eugene Monroe, offered him a contract, and meanwhile I got notification that Phil Taylor's offer was being considered. Time to move on. So I offered a contract to Alameda Ta'amu. I then got notification that Robert Turbin accepted his contract. I knew we needed a little help at right outside linebacker, so I offered a contract to Brandon Graham, after which I got notified that Alameda Ta'amu accepted and is now a Cleveland Brown. Then I thought maybe it's not such a bad idea to have another cornerback, so I offered a contract to Sam Shields, and he immediately said, I want more money, and he didn't get it. Not from me anyway. I then got a notification that Eugene Monroe accepted, and he is now a Cleveland Brown as well. While I was searching for a new kicker, I got a notification that right outside linebacker Brandon Graham was considering our offer. Time to move on. I then saw the undrafted kicker Kaimi Fairburn. Another team was interested in him, but I offered him a contract anyway. The next outside linebacker that looked like a good fit was Lamar Houston. It might stir up a little competition between he and Jaquan Williams, so I went ahead and offered him a contract as well. And while I was doing that, I got a notification that Kaimi Fairburn is now a Cleveland Brown. Finally, with 3 days left in the signing period, Lamar Houston's agent said yes, so he is a Cleveland Brown. So this is how our free agent signing period came out. At an overall 91, we have Matt Stafford. At 82 overall and 27 years of age, the old man of the group, halfback Robert Turbin. At an 80 overall and backup to Joe Thomas, Eugene Monroe at left tackle. At defensive tackle, in overall 87 and serious competition for Danny Shelton is Alameda Ta'amu. At 82 overall and serious competition for the runner-up spot at right outside linebacker is Lamar Houston. And to round out our group, undrafted Kaimi Fairburn, the kid from UCLA that kicked a 60-yard field goal. There is no doubt about the power in his leg. Now we have our roster set for the preseason, and we have plenty of competition in different areas of the roster. The first is at wide receiver, especially for the second and third receivers, and we'll have to determine a good slot receiver in the preseason. The right side of the offensive line seems to have a good mix of players that will push each other, especially at right tackle, where we're still a little bit lean like we were last year. On the defensive line, I'm hoping for some good competition between Nick Williams and Desmond Bryant, and also Alameda Ta'amu and Danny Shelton. At middle linebacker, the battle for backup position between Sharpton, Kirksey, and Robertson should become fierce. Question is at cornerback, how much improvement will there be with Hargreaves and Hosley joining the team? This is our preseason schedule. At the Dolphins, at home against the Ravens, at the Vikings, and at home against the Rams. Join us for our first preseason football game against the Miami Dolphins in Miami Gardens, Florida on Monday Night Football. Until we see you then, have a good day, everyone.